This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle here for TGI Sports Talks. Are you serious? I'll be joined in a second by my co-host, the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez. We got a lot to chat about. Major League Baseball, trade deadline coming, Yankees, Mets, some of the rest of Major League Baseball, some of the big names that may or may not be moved, and we'll talk about the NFL camps opening and see what people are talking about there. And we'll take your comments as well, and we welcome everybody who's live right now. Technical glitch, sorry. We welcome everybody who's talking or watching, I should say, on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter. Everybody who'll listen to us later on the podcast channels and on Roku this morning at 10 a.m. So a lot of changes coming to the schedule on Roku too. So keep abreast of that. I'll keep you abreast of that, and we'll see where we go from there. Thanks for all those who watch College Football Huddle on Wednesday. You can catch that replayed most mornings at 11:30 a.m. And also we'll be live Sunday with our Are You Serious? This is Are You Serious? Our Sunday stream of consciousness, which pretty much every show I have is turning into lately because I'm going to be 62 in like 2 weeks and I'm all over the freaking place. Good morning, Carlos. How are you? The Mad New Yorker joins us live from New York City. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Lots of stuff going on. Huge trade for your Mets last night. They got that Hall of Famer. What's his name?
Hall
of Famer. What's his name? Tyler Naquin and Philip Deal come to the Mets, trying to match the Yankees trade of Andrew Benintendi, which we'll talk about as well. But we want to dive into the Yankees and the Mets and whether the Yankees' problems are just a lull, or are some of the old problems rising to the top again, which we don't want to see. So where do you want to start, Carlos? You want to start with the Mets today?
Let's start with the Mets. So a lot of people already chime in about the trade and what does this do, and I think you have to take the perspective out of the Juan Soto deal that people are looking at. Maybe coming to the Mets, or even Ohtani, a possibility coming to the Mets, or any other big names right now. This was a move that was more, I think, systematically done just to give depth to the positions that they have already. So they get Tyler Naquin, and they can put him out in the outfield, and they move Jeff McNeil from being in the outfield to actually just being a second baseman, which he's shown that he's good at. He's got talent to do that. He works well with Alonso and also with Lindor, even after the situation that happened last year. So,
you think they're going to play him every day in the outfield? Is that what you think?
Naquin?
Yeah.
I think they can, and something that they could do. But they just moving him to the outfield allows McNeil to be available for second base, and this is what's going to happen. So second base. Instead of being platoon with all these players, is they move Guillorme to third base, where he should be at, and he's really good at, and he's a talented infielder no matter any position he plays at. But and so then that means that right now you see that
there too, right, Carlos?
I'm sorry?
You lose an important piece off your bench if you're playing Guillaume in the starting lineup every day.
Well, I mean, you got Escobar. They're playing Escobar, and they're going to play Guillorme on third. So that's how that's going to work out. And they both have good gloves. Guillorme's bat's a little bit better. Escobar is a switch hitter, though. So they strengthened the third base where they were lacking that, and they don't have to go out and look for an extra player at that position. So that's what they're doing with this pickup. Now, of course, that leaves out Dominic Smith and J.D. Davis, and they're pretty much settled on they're going to be moved for somebody.
Yeah, I would think Dominic Smith for sure is on his way out.
And J.D. Davis as well, because he's not – I mean, he'll be the third baseman, right? Or even an outfielder that they want to.
I mean, Naquil I can see playing a couple times a week and platooning maybe with Conrad
Yeah.
out there, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see him, being an everyday player. He's a serviceable Major League Baseball player. He's had a good career.
Yeah.
His OPS, I think, against righties is really good. And I'm not a big analytics guy, but OPS is important to me.
And he's one of those players that was on the Reds that helped that offense when they in games that even when he was batting well and the team wasn't doing good, he still put up his numbers on a personal stat basis. But look, the Mets they're struggling with hitting, and this guy's consistent hitter. So along with the Vogelback that they got, they picked up two guys. They spent less than $20 million, and if they want to sign him next year, if they do good, they can. If they don't, then they can go somewhere else.
Let me say a quick good morning to Alan. We'll get into this Ohtani deal. Just to touch on that, we'll go back to the Mets for the first time ever. And I don't think he'll get traded. I really don't. But the Angels are listening to teams when they bring up Ohtani for the first time ever, and we'll talk more about that.
Well, of course they'll listen to Epler because he put that team together in Los Angeles, anyways.
Oh, for sure.
So I think the situation, and I see it as in a business perspective, the Yankees or the Mets, they need to strike big or just stay semi-relevant because neither of these teams are ready to be in a World Series with the rosters that they have now. So if they don't strike it big, then that's it. They're gonna try to win it out and play ball and they do the best as they can. But again, they lose another season after signing so many players, especially the Mets signing Scherzer. And I'm thinking business-wise, if you're going to go out to spend this money on Scherzer, you should go out and on the trade deadline and pick up somebody to make sure that your team gets to the playoffs at least.
Well, if it's about spending money, then it would be a no-brainer. We know Steve Cohen will do that, but the problem is it takes more money. It takes prospects and or players to get real. If you're going to have a real huge impact player like a Soto, let's say,
right,
you got to be willing to part with your prospects and probably a good major league player on your roster. The Mets have prospects. Maybe not the ones the Nationals are interested in because their second best player is their catcher, but and the best prospect happens to be a catcher.
Right. Well, they got a ton of infielders and some pitchers as well that they're trying to kind of keep in the second second division and not move them up to keep them from being on the for the contract situations as well. So the Mets have a lot of talent in their farm system and a lot more than what people think they have as well. So they do a good job of moving guys around for sure.
Yeah, and everybody's going to show interest in Ohtani for sure, including your team, Alan, and my team, and Carlos's team. The Mets they still need to go out and make. They need to improve that bullpen a little bit more.
They need bullpen help, and they need to get catching. They need to get that catching position solidified. Nito goes in there. He's a great defensive catcher. If you watch the games and you see the pitchers, they like him. They work with him well. He's picked off a couple guys this year. He's instrumental to having some of these guys pitch long innings because he calls a good game. But that bat is suspect now.
Suspect.
Yeah, because he's had games. He's had games where he's had clutch hits and has helped the Mets. But then you can't just help the Mets when you have to be able to do it all the time on a consistent basis, and that's tough for a catcher, anyways. And if they bring in Contreras, then for sure you're not going to see J.D. Davis or Dominic Smith.
Here's the thing: if they bring in Contreras, which is certainly a possibility, and I would think he's probably the major guy they have on their radar, because he doesn't necessarily have to catch. Obviously he can catch, but bringing a catcher in midseason is problematic in getting him up to speed with your pitching staff, right? There's still some issues there, but they could bring him in to be that right-handed DH and catch him against lefties too. So he doesn't have to catch every day.
Right. Well, and you mentioned that like in our conversation last week is about that, but the Contreras brothers are like some of the best catchers out there in the league. So
I'm not saying they're not good. Right.
Same thing with like the Molina brothers. These kids, they've been playing catchers since they were 9, 10, and they've been brought up in systems in Latin America that are second to none. And they could go in a game, may make a difference
My point, though, is building that rapport with the pitching staff that's already, they haven't had any contact with in, the first 6 months here, going back to spring training of this season can be problematic. I'm not saying it can't work. It's just, and you got veteran pitchers. You got veteran pitchers like Scherzer and DeGrom, who's going to come back hopefully next week. It's probably not as big a deal if you had a young pitching staff.
Right, like for instance, like Peterson and McGill, they need consistency. So putting Contreras to those two pitchers, if they come back and they start, it will be something that'd be problematic. But if you have Nito, who's been there with those guys, even when they go back to AAA, the times that Nito was in AAA, like they were there with him and working with him, so they have that rapport with him. So those are small little things that can help you a little bit. But at the end of the day, you got to play ball, man. You got to be able to get in the game, play defense, which the Mets do very well, which a lot of people do not talk about. And they're always like going into the hitting part, but the hitting part takes each and every player like time to get into routines. But with defense, if the team's not playing defense consistently, that'll get you out of the game faster than hitting. And I think you can see that with the Yankees when they played in the series, right? Yeah. You saw that defense made a lot of mistakes, and they let the Mets come in, and the Mets are pesky players, man. They went in, they grinded it out, and they got 2 wins out of it.
Couple of things there, right? So yes, the defense allowed runs that didn't need to be scored, plus the offense was non-existent except for Gleyber Torres two-run home run. They went 0 for 8 in the first game with runners in scoring position, a glaring issue with the Yankees for years now. Mm-hmm. And when you play shabby defense to go along with it, and the Yankees have improved their defense this year until this Mets series at least, and or maybe until this last swoon. I mean, before last night, they'd lost 10 of their last 15 games. So
yeah, and like you bring in Donaldson because he's stalwart third baseman, Gold Glove. He made a mistake. Mistakes happen in baseball, and the things that help the mistakes go away are those hits coming through and runs being scored. Right, yeah. That hides a lot of things. But even the Yankees making those small mistakes, had Judge hit 2 home runs, in the second game, that wouldn't have been an issue for them. They would have won that game, right? But he struck out.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't rely on those home runs.
Right. Yes.
To win last night. They had 2 hits last night.
Right.
They played the Royals, and
the
Royals. I haven't. Obviously, I have trouble saying that because it sounds like Orioles. I almost said Orioles actually. They're lucky they were playing the Royals, but when they get to the playoffs, runs are even more of a premium, and you cannot rely on 2-run home runs to win games. You've got to be able to manufacture runs in this team. And by the way, that's why I'm happy, and we'll change gears just a little bit. We can go back and forth between the Mets and the Yankees. I'm unhappy about the Andrew Benintendi trade only because if the playoffs come and he doesn't get himself vaccinated, he can't play in Toronto if they match up with Toronto at all.
Well, they got one more series, right? They got
maybe one big series in September. It's only 2 games, but still. Right. So that could come into play and be a big factor. I like him as a player. He's the anti-Joey Gallo. He's going to put the ball in play. He does play good defense. His power numbers are down this year. I mean, he's only slugging like 398 or something. Which isn't huge, but if they're going to play him at lead off, which he did last night. I'm not sure if it's because LeMahieu didn't play or not.
That's because DJ's out right now. Yeah.
So I'm sure LeMahieu will lead off when he's in there. I like the move. From a baseball standpoint, I'm a little concerned because there was a lot of rumors flying yesterday all over. The people are telling me, "Oh, it's part of the deal. He had to agree to get vaccinated." Well, that was baloney. He said,
"That's a player." At the end of the day, that's a player's personal.
It is. But
option and whether the Yankees agree with it or not, that's not part of the contract, man. That's actually illegal to put in a contract. I'm
not saying it should be part of his contract. I'm saying in a trade, you can say if you're not going to get vaccinated, we're not trading for you. They can do that. There's certainly nothing wrong with that.
I mean, if I were you for health purposes and the laws that we have in this country about, you can't really mention that kind of stuff. Now you can do a health screening, because you're an athlete, but it's part of the player association situation. But as far as telling people that they need to be vaccinated, or they can only come here if they get vaccinated, I don't believe that was part of the deal.
I don't have to bring him in here. He's not my employee until I trade for him. They can decide if he's not going to get vaccinated, not to make that move.
The only one who can decide is the player themselves whether they're going to get vaccinated or not.
I'm not telling you they have to tell him. I'm saying they can say if he's not going to get vaccinated, don't make the move and get him. The rumors were yesterday that it was part of the agreement, and you're right that it probably couldn't be part of the agreement.
Right.
There could be a side deal where now he's going to go out and get vaccinated.
If the Yankees want to get Soto, give him a shot of any kind, something like that should not be said or be even on paper. So
we shouldn't even know who's vaccinated and who's not. We do know all the time, though.
Yeah, it happens, but of course, you have HIPAA laws and
in Major League Baseball, especially in American League, it's easy to figure out. Just watch the games that are played in Toronto and who's not there, right? So it's pretty easy to see who's vaccinated, who's not. So anyway, I mean, look from a baseball standpoint, I like his game. I think he brings something to the Yankees that they don't have right now. A guy who can move base runners and put the ball in play and not necessarily rely on the long ball. So and play good defense. I think he keeps Judge out of center field more often than not, and I think it's a good move for the Yankees. I don't think they're done. They're going for Castillo. It may be done as soon as today, depending on who you listen to.
Right. Again, I mean, you got to reach for the stars, man. If not, you're not going to make it because you're. Good morning, Bob. You're lacking depth in the bullpen, and I'll put it this way, and I'm not saying that the Mets would have won or would have beat the Yankees, but the Mets didn't have to face Cole or Nestor, right? So not facing those two. You don't really get the best and have Stanton in the lineup. You didn't get the best out of the Yankees. Now, even the best of the Yankees, it still would have been a competitive game. And I will leave it at that. Like, I'm not going to say who would have won and they could have won this because we don't know because it didn't happen. And I'm not that kind of guy. I don't, I watch baseball. I like baseball. And whatever you get is what you see is what you get. And that's it. Like anything else is garbage on the side because that's just, people like predicting and that's no good. So
I'm certainly not going to say the Yankees didn't care about winning the series because they did. This series is always important in New York. It's important because the Yankees haven't been playing good baseball and they need to get that straightened out. But the Mets this was a much bigger series in my mind for the Mets than for the Yankees. Obviously, they need to show they can play with good teams. They need to continue to show that, which they do. Mm-hmm. And they have to keep that slim lead over the Braves. The Yankees have got pretty good cushion, which is a good thing and a bad thing because, you can get a little complacent and I'm worried about that with the Yankees a little bit.
Yeah. So, and I think that the fan base of the Yankees need to kind of relax and take a step back and look to see who is in the American League that's actually giving them a competition, every time they play. And it's not everybody. It's just like the Astros and a couple of teams. And I think that's the problem. Where the Mets and if you flip it onto the other National League, they have to compete a little bit more because look, they just wrapped up the series with the Padres where they lost 2 and they won 1, right? And then they go in to play the Yankees, and of course you got to show them that you're a worthy opponent. And they went in with a different mindset than the Yankees did. Because the Yankees don't have that mindset that it takes to be competitive at the highest level, where the Mets have been competing the whole season to try to make sure that they're above 500 and to give people, and to show people that, hey, they're deserving of being in that position, because there's games, that the Mets have lost that they were winning. There are a few games that they let go against some of these teams, so.
Well, the Mets are likely going to make the playoffs regardless. It's a matter of whether they hold the Braves off for the division. Now, I will dispute one thing. You said it's just the Astros the Yankees really have to worry about. Well, that's a big worry because to get to the World Series, they're going to have to go through the Astros most likely.
Yeah, but the thing is that a team like the Mariners or Orioles or whoever gets that wild card will give them a good series.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Their biggest contender, their biggest challenge is going to remain to be the Astros. And you look at no matter who they play, you're right. When they run up against good pitching, like they have the last few nights, they have not they cannot score runs without home runs. They didn't even sniff Scherzer the other night. They get 2 hits off this kid from the Royals last night, and they win the game because one of them was a home run by Judge in the 9th inning,
right,
to walk off. So, I mean, the Yankees, again, I'm not trying to say the sky's falling, but I've seen this movie before.
right.
We won 100 games twice in the Boone era, twice. Not even been to a World Series, and it's because these same problems creep up.
Again, and we mentioned this in the beginning of the year when you were talking about the roster is not good enough to even make the playoffs, and now they're here. It's the same roster.
I was wrong there. I was wrong about that.
You were wrong, but now you're kind of right, because now those guys that you didn't want to be on the team, like Hicks and Gallo, they're holding the team back because that depth is not there for the Yankees. And then they add Carpenter, which Carpenter's a great pickup, but again, he's older now, so all the analytics that you have on him don't really count because he came out of retirement, right? And he's always been a good hitter. He'll always be a good hitter, but he's not going to be the best hitter that you're looking for to come out. And so you're asking a guy who's a little bit older, past his prime, to skip a game or two, come in and play at a high level, which is, he's been doing okay, but then
you cannot expect him.
He's needed in defense. You see that there's something lacking in this game, and it's not his fault. He's just older, but he's got a good bat.
He didn't have great seasons his last couple seasons with the Cardinals. He redid his whole swing this offseason, and he's had a great impact. Thank God he's been with the Yankees the last 2 months, or this 5-10 swoon might have been even worse because he carried the Yankees for a lot of those games. But I can't expect Matt Carpenter to do that for the next 2 months.
But here is a problem. Here and there lies a problem. The Yankees are expecting him to. Instead of being a team that has depth, you're a team that's only getting what you can out of your starters. And now when it's time to go into the series with these teams, you're almost not in that game anymore because your starters need a rest, right? Like Stanton's sitting out. If Stan was playing against the Mets, he's not been crushing home runs like crazy, but he'll get a few hits.
DL, that's why he didn't play. He's
right, but before the All-Star game, he would get a few hits, and he could have got a few hits against the Mets. Who knows? But he wasn't there, so you don't know what would have happened. So
now, to Cashman's credit, who I've been very difficult on, I've been very hard on him for 3 years now, and I think with good reason. But he goes out and gets an outfielder, so he takes some of that pressure off of Carpenter and can get. Look at Gallo's not going to be on his team come Wednesday. He's not going to be on his team.
I don't understand why they haven't cut him yet.
Well, I think they want to at least get him, make it look like they got something for him, even if it's a bag of baseballs. But either way,
look, you take the losses where they're at, and you just move forward. It's baseball. Like there's so many people in pools of different areas from the minor leagues, independent leagues, and so on. That look, they got Carpenter out of retirement. And the people are asking for what's his name to come back, Gardy to come back. I mean, come on. I want to see Gardy come back, but
not reasonable thinking people are not. I love Gardy. Nobody loves Gardy more than me.
Oh gosh, I was disliking hearing that name all the beginning of the season, but I'm just glad the Yankees moved forward. But again, that's what you got to do. You got to cut your ties, man. You got to move forward.
I wouldn't doubt you see another outfield piece come in here. Maybe not a full-time player, but another piece to play in the outfield because Hicks again is still a liability, even if Gallo goes. And go back to Gallo for a second. Even if they trade him, they're going to have to eat a big amount of the remainder of this season's salary, which big deal. So well, you might as well just put him on waivers because you're going to eat the salary no matter what anyway.
Right.
And that's what they'll probably do. And that's why teams probably won't take him because if somebody wants to take a flyer on him, they can pick him up for a song, after he clears waivers. So
yeah, it's like the whole Cano deal. They gave Cano an opportunity.
Yeah.
They didn't want just a bat. They needed more depth in second base, and they got rid of him.
Look, it's possible Joey Gallo goes someplace like Kansas City or someplace that's quiet and anonymous, and he recovers his stroke a little bit. But it was obvious from the beginning New York was too big for Joey Gallo. That's one of the big things.
Gallo would be good on one of those teams like the Diamondbacks or the Rockies or the Reds. Where you're playing competitively and you're not in the limelight. So
yeah. He would probably be fine there. Maybe look, he probably hit 1 million home runs in Colorado for
yeah.
he probably only hit 190, but what nobody care because he's going to hit 60 home runs. So, what else? I wanted to get on to one other thing. Let's talk a little bit about Soto. And I guess Ohtani we can lump into the same conversation.
Well, if we're going to talk about Ohtani first, we got to the Angels have bad news about Trout.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So bad news for Trout and the Angels. He gets diagnosed with this rare back ailment, similar in my mind to what Don Mattingly went through in the 90s. You mentioned David Wright, probably not the same exact situations, but very similar because any back injury is very debilitating to a Major League Baseball player. Don Mattingly would be in the Hall of Fame today if it wasn't for the back injury that he got. And whether Trout can manage this and remain the player that he is up for debate. So,
LA's got a big mountain to climb because they're going to have to. Of course, they're going to restructure his contract. Whether they keep him there or not. That's another thing, which I think they will, just because he's the face of their franchise, but also they'll lose a ton of money if they try to cut him loose, even if they claim anything from insurance, it won't be a lot. It won't be that much that's covered compared to what his contract's worth.
Yeah, I don't think.
Or maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know the underwriting of that contract. So, and it is an ailment. So it's not something that he went out and tried to get. It's something that has happened to him, and it happened to him while he was playing. So.
And he's downplaying it. He's saying it's not going to be that big a deal, but I'm sure Don Mattingly and David Wright said the same thing when they're, first were diagnosed with their issues. So
yeah, and I'm, he's trying to be, trying to look forward, and I like his attitude. I'm here at home. I pray for some of these players, because they're human, and sometimes we lose sight of that as fans. So we see their big payouts and their paychecks, and the all the luxury things and luxurious things that some of these guys get and do. But he's always been, no matter how much he's gotten paid, he's always been a good player on the field, a good teammate, and he's been a good ambassador, man. Like
good player, great player,
and
the way the Angels have wasted his career by not surrounding him with better players and better pitching specifically is a shame.
I mean, the Angels they tried, man. It's not like they didn't. It's not like they didn't try. It's just that you can't just buy players and expect a championship. It happens sometimes, but it's just a tough. Those are one of the hardest ways to get a championship is just to buy players and try to win a championship. So,
yeah, listen. I mean, look, the Angels. They're probably not going to trade Ohtani at this trade deadline, but it's possible that he'll move. Well, let's talk about if you're the Mets, Yankees, and I don't care who we're talking about. It could be any team in Major League Baseball. To me, those are guys that we protect. Not we, they protect, and it's pretty much throughout Major League Baseball. They're worried about trading their top prospects. It's Alvarez, right? Is the catcher for the
Alvarez, yeah.
Yeah,
and Veneto and Vientros,
and you got Velope and Peraza and maybe Dominguez with the Yankees. They're going to try to protect these guys, and I don't know that I would do that if you have a chance. And this could go for any organization. I'm just bringing them up because I know the top guys. They're not sure things. None of them. We don't know what any of them will do in the major league level. We know what Soto will do, and we know what he's going to do the next 10 years.
Right.
Things are short-sighted a lot of times, especially with Soto when you got him under control for 2.5 more years.
Right.
I might move, and I've kind of moved on this subject a little bit in the last few weeks. I might move those if they want all three of those guys. I might move.
You're only going to get more young people. You're always going to get more. You're always going to find talent. There's a lot of lost talent out there in independent ball and guys that are coming out of college that don't get the opportunities that they should get. That's up to your scouting department, and you hope that they can refill the pool, right? My thing is when they refill the pool and these guys will get moved up and moved around to see what they can what they have and what they can do. They're just sitting there, and it's sometimes you gotta get them in motion. You gotta recycle these guys out. You gotta cycle other guys in and see what you get. Holding these players, international contracts that these guys come in at 15, 16 years old. And holding them off, and then at the end you don't want nothing to do with them because you've already paid them $5 million, which you think is a lot of money, but to somebody who's from another country, that money goes fast because you have to pay for services like flights,
My point is, I'm going to trade those guys for the sure thing in Soto every single time.
You always, because that's besides analytics, which we talked about it being overkill sometimes. It's not just analytics. Soto will go to a team that's in the playoffs, and he's a good hitter. I mentioned that he can almost be placed. If his career goes the way it can, he could almost be a guy like Barry Bonds. Just a good eye, good quick hands, nice bat.
He's got a lot of career to go, but he's on a trajectory to be one of the greats of all time in my mind. He's 23 years old. He's got a lot of career ahead of him, but
and you're definitely going to give him a lot more than something that Judge will ask. Unfortunately, and because he's going to be worth it, and you could give him the arm.
Plus, you got him for 3 playoff runs. Whoever trades for him, who may go for this guy and they'll never pay him ever. A team like the Marlins who need bats. Good pitching staff. They could make a trade for this guy. They don't ever have to pay him, and they could get the benefit of him for the next 2.5 seasons and really improve their team, and then move them or at the trade deadline in 2 years, or just let them walk, whatever. You could see a move like that out of a team like the Marlins.
I'm reading like 10 teams are interested in him, and 10 teams are willing to give him the house. Look, at the end of the day, you give him what he wants, but it doesn't even matter, Keith. What we're talking about, what the media is going crazy about, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, what does Juan Soto want to do? And that's what's going to happen, right?
But as far as yes. But again, what I'm saying is it isn't just teams that can afford to pay him. That's what everybody's concentrated on, right? They concentrate on the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers and the Padres and teams that can pay him. The teams that can't pay him are still in play here right now.
And they'll find ways. They have done that. Even teams like the Rangers and Mariners, they've found ways to get some of these players before, and they can. And a team like that can do it again. Even right now, St. Louis is in the mix. Yeah. Teams like San Diego.
St. Louis has got a lot of tools to be able to send over there.
Right. Sure. Oh, their farm team.
So
they have a great farm team. They have a great lineup for him to join, and Arenado and Goldschmidt. So it's up to Juan Soto. What does he want to do? And when he does go to a team, he's gonna have to step it up, because hey, that's what he's gonna pay for, right?
Well, he's gambling on himself, right? He turned down a lot of money, so he's gambling on himself. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know if I blame him, because he's never going to be in this spot in his career ever again.
And only it's less than even 0.1% of players that have this situation happen to them too.
Yeah. How many guys are in a position to demand a 15-year contract? You're only going to get one chance to demand a 15-year contract, right? So I would, and again, for him, it doesn't matter where I go if I get traded this deadline, because that may not be where I sign.
So you're willing to give up Gleyber Torres finally for Soto?
I would trade the top prospects and Torres, especially now. I can play DJ at second base.
Yeah,
and I can go for 3 playoff runs. I don't even care if I ever sign them. I got a chance to sign them.
Yeah. You open up that spot for other guys to move into, like in the farm league. Like you got Andujar you can get rid of, and don't worry about his contracts.
I will put one caveat on this, though. I'm not willing to do it at the expense of saying goodbye, Aaron Judge. I'll take them both. For 2 years.
So here, as New Yorkers and Yankee fans, we got to understand one thing. Understand this is that it's a possibility both of those players can be on the Yankees.
It is very possible.
And it's also possible that both of those players will not be on the Yankees.
It's very possible, yes.
And that's something that we, don't look forward to, but do not expect. Don't set your expectations too high. So
now the Mets are in the same situation. I mean, the Mets have got they've got some people they could trade, but talk is that they'd also have to throw in Pete Alonso. You're not making that trade, right?
Listen, I would, and not because I don't like Pete Alonso, because I think he's a good player, but it's tough to see pay Pete more than $300. It's tough.
That's true.
Because of what he's been able to do.
How long is he under contract for?
I think he's due for a new contract after the season, actually.
Is he a free agent, or he's just eligible for arbitration? I don't think he can be a free agent yet.
No, he's eligible for arbitration. So, so that's the deal with him. It's like, it's not that I wouldn't pay him over. I wouldn't pay, if I'm a GM, I'd give him maybe 280, but you can't give him 300 plus, because, he's he's just now coming out, right? He's just now doing his thing. It's been 3 years. He's not, this probably be the first year that he's actually eligible to be an MVP candidate, right?
Yeah. All right, I'm going to throw a couple things at you real quick. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back with some NFL stuff. I'll throw a couple names at you, and I want to know, are they getting traded and where? Juan Soto. Does he get traded?
Maybe.
Oh, you got to give me yes or no. Come on.
Yeah, well, all right. So I will say yes.
Hot here.
Yes, San Diego.
Okay, that's not a bad. I would probably say the same thing. Ohtani.
Yes, Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, probably in the offseason. I don't think he gets traded to trade.
He just doesn't want to come to the East Coast. That's a problem.
Yeah. Let's see who else is out there that we can like. Luis Castillo's a no-brainer.
Right.
Yes, and I say the Yankees. I don't know what you think.
Hey, maybe the Mets can sweep in and get him.
Who else is? Who are the other? Wilson Contreras obviously getting traded. Where?
I want to say the Mets, but I could see him going somewhere else too. I could see him. His team wants to get moved. It's hard for me to say the Mets.
He's another guy who they could trade him and sign him. You know, I'll bring another name because I want to keep Alan in interested here. Martin Perez for the Rangers in a walk year, 31 or 2 years old, having a great year, gets traded at the deadline. Yes.
Yes.
I say yes, and I'm going to say he goes to the Cardinals.
I was going to say either the Cardinals or even a team like Tampa Bay, maybe.
And just to ease Alan's fears by saying this, I do think that Texas will pursue him as a free agent as well. There's no reason when you got a guy reaching free agency and you got a good relationship with him, trade him, and you can always get him back in the offseason. Teams don't think about that enough. There's a few guys that fit this description this year. Yankees have done it several times. They did it with Chapman. That's how they got Gleyber Torres in the first place, right? Yeah. And they had Chapman back the next year. So,
you know, a name that's out there that that even the Mets looked at was Conforto.
You know what? Conforto he can sign anywhere he wants, and he may sign with the Mets. Who knows? I think you may see Conforto play baseball again this year. We'll see.
Yeah, he's recovering from surgery, but he should be back.
One thing we know is this time next Friday, we'll have lots to talk about because there should be lots of movement. Maybe it'll all be middle relievers. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next Friday. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about some of the NFL camp news. There's some interesting stories out there, and we'll be right back after this quick break.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
All right, guys, we're back. And better than ever. Carlos, I got to ask you real quick. Jamie Pags and I have been trying to figure out what Sal's saying at the end of that. Did you hear that part about the Brooklyn thing with the baseball guys, Sal's team?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he's saying, too.
I don't know what he's saying.
Put two words together, like really fast.
He thinks it's some Brooklyn thing. I can't figure it out. Jeez, good grief. Now he's got me. He brought it up, and now every time I play it, I'm like, what is he saying? It's driving me crazy. Listen, let's jump over to the NFL real quick. Training camps are pretty much all open now. There's some big news or some not big news around training camp. I mean, one of the big stories this week was Kyler Murray and whether he had or did not have a clause in his contract that he had to watch X amount of film a week. I mean, just the fact that this is being talked about tells me that Kyler Murray has some issues. But It's been now removed from his contract because of the controversy. Even his coach said, it kind of a backhanded, I don't know whether he was trying to compliment him or not. I mean, he said, my boy's making $250 million. He says, I think it's okay to put that in his contract, although I'm sure he's watching enough film. Now, even some of his teammates have said he wasn't as prepared as he should be.
And, even if that's a knock on him, it doesn't matter. He's still, and this is a business move for the Cardinals, right? Because you make that contract extension knowing that there's no QB pool out there to pull from, right? And if there were, then the Giants and the Jets would have better quarterbacks at this moment. And the thing is that the Cardinals, they're better right now than the Giants and the Jets. So, and the stats, and even though, you don't win championships on stats, the stats that he has right now are comparable to Mahomes' rookie seasons, and they're very comparable. So, you make that move hoping that you
Mahomes won a lot of playoff games in that rookie season.
But the difference, but the difference is that he was in the playoffs, and Kyler Murray just got into the playoffs this year. So now this is only his second year. So, right?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Third year.
This will be his third year coming up.
That's correct.
Right. So he in the second year he made it to the playoffs, right?
And lost. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what did Patrick Mahomes do his first year? What did he do his first year? Nothing. He sat back and was a backup. What did he do his second year?
No, he played. He played most of his rookie year.
No, not most of it. No, not most. He only played like 4 or 5 games.
You said Kyler Murray?
No, I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes.
I'm sorry, Mahomes. No, he sat pretty much this whole year. Yes.
Yeah. So like, that's why if you compare them and you make the move hoping, that you have something to work off of, especially when you don't have that many quarterbacks to pull from. It's talented starters. They're just not available. So they're keeping him. They're giving him money. And if he doesn't perform, they can always cut him. So it's not – everybody's making this out to be a huge ordeal. And at the end of the day, the ball is in Kyler Murray's hands. He's got to do what he's got to do because he's got a contract to uphold. So if he doesn't do his due diligence and he doesn't do what he has to do to be the best quarterback in the NFC West, because he can be, because NFC West right now is not as good as people think it is, then, and he doesn't win a playoff game, then the deal was bad, move forward, try to, pick up another draft pick or something but it's not if you think about it and you look at business wise, it's not bad. You don't have a project pet in Wilson, and you don't have a third string quarterback in Daniel Jones, and you starting the season. And listen, Kyler Murray will probably win you 2 or 3 games, right, just by himself.
Yeah.
So
again,
he won that last year. Last year he won almost four games on his back, just running and throwing the ball. So he can do it.
We're going to end up in the same argument we always ended up in, so we won't stay in this too long. I'm telling you that your quarterback needs to be your leader on the field, and if your quarterback needs a stipulation in his contract that he needs to watch film, you got a big problem at starting quarterback.
Okay, we can just say that all these guys who've gotten extensions or who are QBs, there's always been issues with them as far as contractual agreement part. But at the end of the day, if they're not up to snuff, they don't make it. So even look at who the Cardinals had before Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen. Where's he at now? What's he doing?
Cleveland. He just signed a contract.
He just signed a contract Cleveland, but he ain't going to start there.
He's not going to start anywhere.
No, but Kyler Murray started as a first year. He played his second year. Now he's on his third year. So it counts for something. And what, they're going to get Daniel Jones? They're going to get Wilson? Come on, man. They're okay. They just need to make sure that their defense stays solid and make sure that they protect Kyler Murray. That's it.
Let's talk about another controversial player. And if Robert speaks up on that topic, we can backtrack. Good morning, Robert, by the way.
Good morning, Robert.
Robert Butler from Sports Scopes. Guys, if you're not watching his show, do it. You can't find a guy with more knowledge. This guy gets breaking news faster than anybody, man. He's faster than ESPN. DK Metcalf came into camp whining, crying, saying, I'm going to watch. I'm not going to participate. Right. You guys have fun. And he gets what he wants. He gets a new contract, or an extension, I should say, 3 years for $72 million. DK Metcalf's a talented guy, but I would say he's never reached his potential. And is he now a problem on this team? I don't think he's a great teammate, and I think this is a potential problem still for the Seahawks. And he may have
the problem with the Seahawks is they don't have anybody that's going to be able to throw him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and even when Russell Wilson made a bad attempt to throw the ball, he caught up with one of the fastest cornerbacks in the NFL. You know, and that's going to be filmed there for life, and that's his calling card, right? He's the ultimate athlete, man. This is DJ Metcalf, man. And if you don't give him the ball, then that's on you.
He looks in uniform, but give me the ball or I'm going to cry about it. I mean, he had with Russell Wilson.
That's at the end of the day, that's the wide receivers. That's what they do. That's what they have to do to get either respect, get the ball, or both. At the end of the day, if you don't ask for the ball and you're not getting the ball, then that's not a problem on you. So, yeah, the thing is that the Seattle Seahawks don't have enough tools to be able just to say, okay, fine, we're not going to give an extension. This is a problem in the NFL that these guys are getting these contracts because there's not enough players to go around that have talent and to fulfill expectations that some of these new offensive coordinators want to put out these plays for.
It's a problem in sports in general, and Robert's right. I think it's ridiculous they gave in too soon. They were all because he's really the only draw they have is DK Metcalf. That team's going to be really bad probably this year. But this is an epidemic in sports, right? I've got a contract. I sign a long-term contract or however long it is, and then a year from now or 2 years from now, it's outdated and I'm behind the curve and getting paid. So I hold out. If I got a contract, go to camp. You can negotiate an extension, but fulfill your contract and go to work. I can't do that. You can't do that. The normal guy can't just say, no, I'm not happy with my pay. I'm not going to work. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Goodbye. And there should be and whether it's DK Metcalf or whether it's Aaron Rodgers last year, who was going to hold out and got his money, whether it's Ben Simmons with the 76ers, there should be clauses and they have to look at this. There should be clauses in the contracts. You don't fulfill your contract, I'm going to cut you and you get paid nothing.
Yeah, but that's also part of the Players Association, right? The union that they're in. So you cannot not pay a player for the position that he's in and being a high-level player. That's another problem. That's something that doesn't have to do with the players asking for more money. That's something that's written into the Players Association. And even the association tells you talks to the players. Hey, they'll talk to the player's agent. He needs to sign for higher value because that's what his base is at. If you lower the base, then a lot of teams will try to take advantage of you, and then you lower the money coming in for the other people in your position for other teams. Wow. So the issue that we're kind of like come at is not just an issue for the player, because the player is always going to want more money, but it's also the player association that's allowing these things to happen with the ownership and making these contracts, right? So we can't stand in between people and their money, and I don't want to, and I don't care to, but we do have to understand that it's not just the player and the agent. The Players Association demands these players to make sure that they get top pay for their contracts, for their position, and what they're at. So
I don't have a problem with that. They need to protect their players. I understand that, but the owners need to stand up and say, well, if your player doesn't come in and fulfill that contract, I'm not going to pay him.
Oh, you have to understand that the ownership, they do have a club in their hand, and they will have a strike. They'll lock out these players if they have to, and they'll work out new contracts for the Players Association. So I mean, it's
becoming an issue everywhere. And look at it in baseball. Look, Soto's a good example, right? And I don't have a problem with people getting their money. I don't care if somebody wants to pay you, then you're worth it. But you can't have both ways. You can't say, I want the long-term security, give me a 10, 15-year contract, but then I want opt-outs every 2 years because I want to, that you can't have it both ways.
Well, here's the thing. And the player associations allow you to have it both ways, right? And the ownership wants it both ways because it actually benefits ownership more than it benefits the players and the contracts that they're taking on, because the owners can just pay out really fast what the front money costs for them to get these contracts, and they cut their losses if the player doesn't do that well or gets injured or doesn't want to be there anymore, right? The NBA teams, for example, the NBA teams, they're loving this. They like it because they're okay. We can get new players on our team because these players don't want to be here.
Yeah, but if I sign Juan Soto for $400 million, a great NFL quarterback for $400 million, and he wants to renegotiate, and you say, well, that's fine, or he doesn't play well, I can just get out from under his contract. You can't. You got to pay him the $400 million.
No, it was first of all, we don't know the exact underwriting that's on these contracts.
Well, in the NFL, it's unlikely that all that money's guaranteed.
Right. So the guarantees are is what the owners and the player associations and the unions from these leagues are what they fight. Right. How much money they get up front. That's always been the key for the contracts that they get from the players. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So we like Alex Rodriguez was guaranteed was $120 million or something like that. So somehow or another he got $120 million, but at the end of the day, these are things that teams either they'll make them or break them, right? And they have a choice. They don't have to sign these players.
All right, we'll move on from here. Where are we going to go next? I will say there was one interesting. I got a couple other things, but I wanted to let you bring up a couple things. Daniel Snyder testified yesterday from his yacht. I mean, good grief. Come on. I mean, if you got called to Congress or had to go to court with somebody saying, okay, Carlos, go to the beach and testify via video. 11 hours, and he's answered every question. It's going to be very interesting to see how many times he perjured himself.
My understanding was that he was not the owner anymore of the Redskins / Commanders because he gave the ownership to his wife. Wasn't that correct?
I think that's what he answered, yes.
So this guy, he's a work of art, man. He's a Picasso that needs to get sold. So.
I can't wait till these transcripts are they're going to be made public, I think, on Tuesday. It's going to be very interesting to see what's in there and how many times he perjured himself. Because he was under oath, by the way. He didn't want to even testify under subpoena where he'd be under oath, so he couldn't. What's the point of that, by the way? Jeez. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. What do you got? What's been going on in training camp that you're interested in here?
Tampa Bay, right? So Tampa Bay, Gronkowski's not coming back. He retired. Tom Brady's coming back from meniscus, right? Reconstructed MCL, right?
Well, 40 days. So.
Yeah, and Godwin is also coming back from surgery. And then yesterday they lose Ryan Jensen, the center, which is a key part of the integral part of
Julio Jones, who I graduated with from high school, I think.
Who?
Julio Jones. I was kidding.
I was like, what?
He's another old guy is my
point. Julio Jones is put there for depth, right? Because you have the other wide receivers. Are they going to be the competitive Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we expect?
Well, if Tom Brady's your quarterback, you'll be competitive. Yes.
Okay. I like Todd Bowles' defensive. I like what he makes and the calls that he makes on defense. I think he was very underrated as a Jets coach. Jets just had terrible roster, but
I feel bad. I don't know the answer to this, and if Robert's still with us, I'm sure he does. Did Byron Leftwich move on, or is he still there?
I believe he's still there.
Because I thought he might have moved on because he was the other candidate he was also a strong candidate for this head coaching job, and I wonder if he stayed.
I think he is still on the staff. Let me look at it.
He is because I think that's going to be very important. I'm not a big Todd Bowles fan. I mean, he's a great defensive coach, but I know it was the Jets, and I think he won 10 games one year, which I guess I should give him some credit for. But I've never been a huge Todd Bowles fan as a head coach. I would have rather seen Byron Leftwich get a shot.
Well, I think Byron he made his bed and now he's sleeping in the man. He went too far
with Jacksonville.
And it bit him at the end. But I think it was I think he was ballsy to try to get that make that move. But again, that's the kind of guy he is, and I wouldn't have taken that job in Jacksonville if they didn't give me what I wanted. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of older guys, right, or banged up guys, and it'll be interesting to see whether, Brady made the right decision in coming back. He's the guy who I actually graduated high school with. Was Tom Brady. So.
Yeah, but the Texans lose Mechie due to the cancer.
Yeah, that's a
sad news over there. So
what about not necessarily football related, but the Tennessee Titans bringing the Ric Flair to speak to the team. He's actually going to be, by the way, performing in Nashville in the ring, the squared circle, I think is what they call it. And I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but I know Ric Flair, obviously. 73 years old. He's going to be in the ring this weekend as well. So Nature Boy comes in and is trying to inspire the Titans. Where's I wish Robert was still here. That's his team, right? The Titans.
I'm gonna tell you, and this is my prediction, and I'm just going out from what I see so far, is that the AFC West is going to be so strong and competitive that the Titans will be able to sneak in from the AFC South and be in the playoffs. So that's my prediction. They might even make it to the Super Bowl. So that's my prediction.
Well,
they were my Super Bowl pick last year. They didn't make it due to their quarterback, but I think their quarterback has got to learn, live and let die. You got to learn from your mistakes. And I think if he doesn't do it this year, Ryan Tannehill, won by yards. That's it. This is your only chance to prove that you're legit starting quarterback, my man.
He's had plenty of chances so far. So
I mean, he did. He's done well though, but well enough doesn't get you to the Super Bowl. You have to have greatness in some games. You don't have to be great all the time.
Well, it helps to be great all the time.
But there's not that many players that can do that, and
Be great most of the time.
Even Tom Brady's like one of the only guys that has done that consistently. So
Tom Brady's not great all the time, right? He's had some really bad games in his career, and in the playoffs and big moments.
No. He's in the fourth quarter. You better make sure he doesn't have the ball in his hand, man.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he could be horrible for three.
That's a proven fact.
Don't give him the ball with a game on the line. I agree.
Yeah. Don't. That's a proven fact.
Even now at 45 years old, I wouldn't do it. So.
And I tell people, like you play down to your competition, and I believe a lot of teams actually mess up trying so hard that they give Tom Brady the opportunity to come back. I really believe that. I think that's a mental block when you come and you're playing a team that Tom Brady has been on.
Nobody will believe this. We only got a couple minutes left. Nobody will believe this, but I was on a cruise ship when they played Atlanta in the Super Bowl, and they were behind in that game 28-3.
Whew, I remember that game.
And I was sitting there, and my buddy was messaging me. I had Facebook on the ship, so I could message with him. He's just like beside himself because he gives up when we're down 7-0, right? He's like, here we go again. But I'm like, we're not going to lose this game. One score, just one touchdown will get him started. I kept saying it. And all the people I'm sitting with, but by the way, there was only about 10 Patriot fans in the entire ship. Everybody was anti-Patriot or Falcon fans. Right. And I kept saying one time, one game, one score, we will bring them back. And I never maybe wavered. The only time I ever wavered, they'd already started their comeback, and Julio Jones makes this great catch late in the fourth. There's probably 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. Makes a great catch for a first down at the 11-yard line. I'm thinking it's done. Now it's done. But then they stupidly started trying to pass the ball and got sacked 4 times and then a fumble. And the rest is history. I never, except for a fleeting moment with 4 minutes left, thought they were going to lose that game because of who was playing quarterback.
Keith, think about that. That's a mental block that all these teams have, and the coaching staffs and the defensive coaches staff, because they're like, we can't give Tom Brady the ball. They're looking around like, what time is it? What's on the clock? We can't have them have the ball. And that mentality, not being your own team, not caring about what Tom Brady's going to do, is what makes you lose to Tom Brady. That's
a great point, because in the NFL Films highlights of that game, an hour long, they kept showing the sidelines, and the guys are over there saying, don't forget who's on the other side. Don't forget who's on the other side. And I'm thinking, you guys are killing them. And that's what you're worried about? You should be worried. Exactly. But you shouldn't be voicing it to the rest of your team, right? So
right, no. And if you're a team captain, you're looking around like saying, "Okay, boys, let's get this game done. It's ours," right? But
yeah,
that's I said, team leaders, man. It has to start with your coach, man. That's important.
I don't disagree with you, but you need leaders on the field.
You need leaders on the field. But what happens is that these coaches manipulate these guys and make them feel like little boys and give them this father figure thing. And when they don't have a father figure to look up to, and they're just like, go out and play, instead of being like, hey, go out there and you knock out that person who just took your, the bike from you. You go knock them out and get your bike back. You don't have that kind of guy leading you, man.
Exactly.
That hurts more than a team leader on the field, man. Look at Shad, one of the best examples.
He will not be in the field. We got to wrap this up, but I need a guy in the field saying, "It's not. I don't care if it's Tom Brady or God. We got to kick him in the face while he's down, right?" So that's what we got to do. Listen, great show today, Carlos. And listen, we're going to have a lot to talk about and debate next Friday with the trade deadline, more NFL news. That's probably what we'll be talking about for the next 2 months. So here we go. Guys, you have a great weekend. Carlos, thank you. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk and the Mad New Yorker here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great weekend.